For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm going to warn you up front. See, I'm very open with my listeners. On the radio shows, when I was hosting a syndicated top 40 show, I had to do the smoke and mirrors thing and be very professional, and we also just didn't have the time to sort of be open and say, hey, look, I'm in my pajamas right now. Hey, it was always a very professional show. We never led on to things like that. For this podcast, whatever, I'll tell you. So today we are taping 6 episodes, and we're halfway through. And at the halfway mark in our office, we have a break for lunch, and I can't name the chain because they're not an advertiser, but there's a buffet that we go to, and it's kind of weird because sometimes I'll want just a glass of water because the buffet food is, it couldn't be quite salty, so it makes you thirsty. But for some reason today, I decided to have a carbonated drink. You know what I'm getting at. Burping, right? Okay. So I wasn't even thinking, oh shit, I now have to go and tape 3 more episodes for over an hour and a half of talking. And something with me when I start to talk is that I end up burping. I guess either the bigger breath that I take, or like the deeper breath you take. There we go. It's like, that's when the burps start coming. And so when we go to the buffet on a normal day, not a big deal because it's like, whatever, I'm just going to be sitting around for the rest of the afternoon. If I'm talking, I'll be either by myself. I'm not, but then I'm like, oh, wait, today I'm going to be behind a microphone for the next hour and a half. So yeah, but we enjoy a good buffet here, let me tell you. So one of the things that we talk about during our breaks is life in general, like what your childhood was like, or what your family life was growing up, or your school life, right? And so as adults, am I the youngest of our group? I'm trying to think of it. I'm looking at the people here. Yeah, we've got one. Well, my husband's 2 years or 3 years younger. But other than that, yeah, everybody's in their 40s. Okay, so we're all in the same-ish sort of generation, 40s and up. But, I've said many times that I wouldn't want to be a kid growing up in today's world. I've said that on the record quite confidently. But one of the things that we were talking about the other day is which era, and we use that word because I guess Taylor Swift has made it cool, which era of your life would you stay in forever if you could? Meaning kind of like what was the happiest time of your life? And if you could choose to just stay there forever. So if that doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to explain it in the next segment. We've got to open the show. So that's what we're talking about on the Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
JB here on The Scribble, 42-year-old Jeremy Bradley joining you on The Scribble. And I say that for a reason because I am from a generation where we grew up without, well, I guess the internet was starting. When I was in high school, the last year or two of high school, we had the internet at home because we had a computer. We had the AOL, the dial-up CD, the CD, the squeal, you'd get 50 hours. But in our school, the classrooms did not have computers. We had Sorry, they did not have internet connected computers. We did have computers in terms of like a word processing class and where we would type memorandum and, we learned how to space things, but we did not have any computers that were on the internet. That's what I should say. Now, there were, I think, 3 of them in the library, but in the classrooms, no, that was just not a thing. It didn't happen. I graduated 2000, so that's putting a time on it there. But coincidentally, that was, I think, one of the happiest times of my life. Now, when I think career-wise, so like I said at the start of the show, you think about it from, your family life or your, school life or professional life, whatever it is. When I think about my personal life, it would be my years between 15 and 17, and I'll explain why. Career-wise, when I worked at Party City, I was probably 21 to 23, I think, ish. I always said that was the best job that I had. We just had a really fun group of people. I was an assistant manager. I got along really well with the store manager. The other assistant manager was basically like a sister to me. Coincidentally, she ended up going to school with my sister-in-law. But we became great friends to the point where it was almost like I spent more time with her than her boyfriend did at the time. But I couldn't get over it. So when Party City closed, just to give you some background, in Canada, Party City was open a long time ago, 20-some years ago, and then it went into receivership, and then it opened as a company called Let's Celebrate. That lasted for about a year, not quite a year, and then it went under. Party City was gone. I just recently found out, because I spend most of my time in Los Angeles now, but I just found out that Party City is, I guess, coming back in Canada, and there's stores opening across the country. But for the longest time, so once the store closed, I was that person who couldn't get over it. I was that person who was always still talking about the job. Even when I connected with the previous staff, social media wasn't a thing at the time, but if I had them on text or whatever it was, I was always bringing up Party City. Always. I would just, do you remember this? That was so funny. I was just thinking about da-da-da-da. I would never let it go. And finally, the good friend who was like a sister, said to me, you need to move on. Get over it already. We haven't worked there for whatever, 3-4 years, whatever it was. We haven't worked there in so long. And I just couldn't. I just said, it was just so much fun. We had the freedom, it was just a good time. Then, this was before I started my own company. So then obviously, once I am a boss and I have these radio shows and do all these things, then that changes. But yes, if you were to ask me, my professional life when I was working for, other people when I was growing up, Party City, without a doubt, without question, without hesitation, that was my answer. Party City was my best job ever. I worked at everywhere. I worked at Red Lobster. What is it with me working at these companies that are going under? I was 17 at the time, so that was a long time. We're going back, 25 or almost, whatever. Anyway, so that's a work time that I had no grown-up responsibilities. I still lived with my parents. I was I in school at the time? I started. Yeah, it's hard to. Like I said, Party City I worked for a year, and then when it switched over, so 2 years in total I worked at the Party Store, let's call it that. And so I was in school for the last part of the run of the company. So I was just working weekends at that point. But anyway, that would be my career that I would go to, aside from the company that I own now. Now, when it comes to the personal side of things, when was the time that you had the most fun with your friends? So that would be when I was 15 to 17 years old, and it was completely different than the friendships that kids have nowadays. So for us, my brothers and me, I have 2 older brothers. Our family would go out to the lake. My parents have always had a place north of the city since, I think I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, I guess, when we got a place out there, or they got a place out there. And that's where we grew up every summer, we would go out to the lake. So we had our group of friends because you had the same neighbors for years. Actually, I think my parents still have the same neighbors out of the lake, if I'm not mistaken. And we grew up together, and we would spend time together, and we went through our teenage years. We went through puberty and everything together. But the basis of those friendships, and it really was just sort of one big group, was not sexualized in any way. You maybe had a boyfriend-girlfriend couple that eventually came of it because we were such good friends. But I didn't know. There was no talk about, oh my God, are Chris and Heather having sex? Oh my God, like where did Rihanna go? Where she's, it wasn't like that because that's just not how our friends were. That's just not what friendships were like. Never would you have people, talking behind backs or, backstabbing and viciousness and, you'd have arguments because that's just what people do. That's a human thing. But never, there was never a fist fight. There was never any sort of, you stole my boyfriend, you bitch, and, meet me at the playground. But no, that's just not how friends were for that group anyway. Maybe it was like that with other kids. But so we would go out to the lake. Obviously, we would spend the entire summer together. Now, reminding again, this is before the days of social media, so it's not like we could just message each other on Facebook or whatever. We would call each other. We would actually pick up the phone and call from our parents' landline phone to each other. And we would get together. The one friend, Chris, that I mentioned, he was in a band, and so they would go and perform different shows, and so we would go and would watch the band perform, and we would hang out on the weekends. This is, again, when the kids are starting to get driver's licenses, so that was kind of fun to be able to, take the parents' car on a Saturday and go for pizza or go, to an arcade or a movie or whatever we were doing. And it was such a carefree time. It was so innocent. It was so not serious. Now, we ended up getting into the drinking at an early age. So when I was 16, 17, I was drinking a lot. I was finishing off, a small bottle of vodka to myself, and it concerned my friends. And I can understand that now. I can see it and I can recognize it. Back then, it was just, I know there's still vodka. And meanwhile, they're hiding it from me. But we had just a really good, close group of friends. And so it was always laughs. It was always laughs. I do not remember a time where so-and-so's not talking to so-and-so because so-and-so said this or so-and-so did that. It just didn't happen. We didn't have that. Now, would we get together and maybe... We didn't go to school together. We lived in different areas of the city, so it's not like we would skip class together. But we would skip class together, where it was kind of like, hey, I don't have school this afternoon. Oh, okay, well, I do, but let's go somewhere. Let's go. And fine, whatever. I'm not saying that skipping school was, the right thing to do, but whatever. Look at what became of my life. I did okay. But it was just so carefree. We were silly. I got a camcorder that. Again, now you're going to go like, well, you just record shit on your phone. Right. Back in the day, I had this big clunky camcorder. We went to the Dixie Chicks concert. Rihanna and her mom and me and our friend Heather. And it was funny because we went to McDonald's beforehand and I showed them that I brought this big clunky video camera. And so this is again before the days of metal detectors and purse searches and whatever. But I put the camcorder in one of their purses and we got it into the concert. You remember that you weren't even allowed to take a picture in a concert before? And video was absolutely forbidden. Now that's all you see is everybody holding up their cameras. But back then it was frowned upon. It was, you'd get kicked out. And so I videotaped almost the entire Dixie Chicks concert, the songs that we liked anyway. And again, it was just such a really good time. And we, once we hit sort of, 18 years old and everybody was, having jobs or doing college or university, whatever it was, we did sort of lose touch. And, again, that sort of stuck with me because I was just like, oh my God, I miss these people. We don't really get together anymore. And then that's when you're having more serious relationships, right? So people are now into, committed relationships, not just the sort of teenage puppy love thing and careers, and life happens, and that's fine. I was very focused on my career too, so I was very distracted. And I look back at it, and I do not have one complaint. I look back at it with such fondness, where if somebody, well, like I just said, somebody could ask, what time of your life would you go back to? I don't even have to think about it. I can already tell you. And it's just for those basic reasons of, you'd wake up, you'd spend a bit of time at the place at the lake, and then you'd wander over. Somebody would come over to see, oh, is Jeremy up? Oh, I'll go over there and see. And then we just spend the afternoon together, or we spend the entire day together. Yeah, let's just go drive into town. Oh, let's just, let's sit at the beach. Oh, let's just go to the playground. Hey, let's take the camcorder in the middle of the night and make a knockoff of the Blair Witch Project. We called it the Blair Bitch Project. And let's make sort of like our own little horror movie out at the lake at midnight. That's just stuff that we would do. And it was such a good time. So fast forward now to being in my 40s, that I was out with Suzanne, our producer Suzanne. We were out together, and we ran into one of those friends from the lake, Rihanna. Not Rihanna like the singer. It's Reanna, so not like Rihanna, Riha. Anyway, so I'm standing with Suzanne at the counter of wherever we were, and all of a sudden this woman comes in, and she goes to the other counter beside us, and I was like, that looks really familiar. Now, I didn't say anything at the beginning, but I took note. I was like, I think that's got to be Rihanna, because we all pretty much look the same. We haven't really aged very much, and I wasn't in the city. That was the thing. The city where we grew up. I was about an hour outside of the city, so to run into somebody there, that in a different town altogether is even stranger. So I'm standing next to Suzanne. I don't say anything. I'm looking. I'm trying to make eye contact so that we could be like oh my God, it's you, right? I didn't want to, be like, excuse me, are you Rihanna? Are you Rihanna? I'm Jeremy. Do you remember me? Obviously, she's going to remember me, but she's not looking over. I can't get her attention. Suzanne is talking to the counter person. And so I'm hearing what the woman is saying. And then eventually, I just interrupted. I interjected and just kind of said something about her because once I was like, okay, that's the voice. I know, whatever. And sure as shit, she's like, oh my God. And we have this hug. Now, I'm not kidding you. We then stood and talked, the three of us as a group, almost 2.5 hours. Yep. And that's what I think is funny, because sure, Rihanna and I had some jokes and stories back and forth that Suzanne, right? Do you know what I'm talking about when you're with somebody and they run into somebody that they know and you're just kind of standing there and they're talking about people or things that you have no idea about. So it's awkward and you're bored and you're kind of like, this is awkward, but I'm going to stand here and smile and laugh along like I know what they're talking about. So yeah, we had those moments, but it was so much more like Suzanne and Rihanna are total strangers, but eventually having conversations with each other. The two of them are talking, and then I just go somewhere, bathroom or whatever it was. And we kind of spent almost like the afternoon together. And it was just great because I said, these are the kinds of friends where we haven't seen each other in years. We were the best of friends. Now, when I say that the relationship that we had as friends really was about 3 years from the time that I was 15 to 17, the summer of 15 years old, 16 years old, and 17 years old. We didn't spend as much time, like I said, when we were 18, 19, because people had adult life and jobs and whatever. So the friendship does kind of fizzle out for no reason other than life happens. But I get together with Rihanna, coincidentally, and now it's like no time has passed. I knew that she had kids. I knew because, of Facebook or whatever it was. And she had known about my radio career and whatever. Also, a little bit different situation for me because obviously I was in the local media, so people knew who I was, and so that was fine. But certainly we just, we reconnected. Now, the funny thing from that was afterwards, we stayed in touch. It was kind of during like the pandemic, right? When everybody was doing those Zoom calls and just sort of reconnecting because you were bored out of your mind. Well, it was the same kind of thing. It was like, it was so nice to see you. And now I know that her kid's name is Xander. I know that her husband's name is whatever. I know that she works at this greenhouse. I know that she does all these things. Whereas had we not run into each other, it's like, oh, I didn't even know. So I know the kids' names. I know Steve, the husband. I know the job at the greenhouse. I know all these things. I know that, her brother Chris is a cop. I know that he's got, this many kids. I know that he's still with Sarah. And I'm just like, oh my God. And when you think about that time, right? I'm talking about from the time that I was like 15. I'm 42. I'm going to be 43. So, we're talking well over a 20-year span that we just pick up like it was, and so it was just so nice. And we, like I said, we message and, we're going to get together again soon. So it's kind of funny how you could sort of take that era, going back to the original topic, and almost like fast forward 20 years to be the same people. We jokingly, I'd said, because I'm in broadcasting, I said, we need to do almost a reunion because Rihanna's mom, Jan, is still in the exact same house that they were in when we were growing up. And I said, we need to do almost like a Real Housewives kind of reunion show where we all get together. Now, I was told that a bunch of the others from the lake had still been in touch with each other and are still connected. My career took me away from Winnipeg and, removed me, and so I didn't get to really stay in touch with everybody like the others have. But I said, we need to do like a reunion, kind of a sit down where we all talk about, okay, what do you remember about us doing the Blair Bitch Project? Rihanna, when we worked at the golf course and we had that staff party where we were dressed like SNL characters, what do you remember about that? Chris, what do you remember about, Nadine, what do you remember about us coming around the corner, belting out Dixie Chicks, and you came running out to the street and harmonizing with us? So-and-so, what do you, like, all these memories are just coming back to me right now in the moment as I'm telling you this story. That's all these things are just flooding back to me. So I said, wouldn't that have been fun to just sit down, get some cameras, record it? No kids, I don't want any of the bullshit kids and husbands and whatever around. Just our core group. Because the last time we were all together in that house, in their home, was for New Year's Eve of the millennium. So, like I said, that I graduated 2000, and so I was 17 years old at the start of the year 2000, and I had my aforementioned video camera, my camcorder, and that was the last time that we were all in that house together. I have the video of that still. And I said, wouldn't that be wonderful if we could, we'll all digitize it or whatever we need to do to get this, and if we all get together, we have that big chat, we talk about what we remember, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then we watch our New Year's Eve together as a group. Doesn't that, I think that shit like that is cool to me, and maybe that's just an age thing where I'm like, oh my god, I'm taking a walk down memory lane. But I would much rather have all these fond memories and great memories of my childhood than what kids are going through now, let's be honest. And so one of the things that I've said, I've got to take a break, so I'm going to wrap that up, and I'm going to continue talking about my desired era on the Scribble right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
All right, JB here, back on the Scribble. Continuing on, they always say, we gotta get to breaks, and take a breath yourself, JB. All right, fine, I will. The era that I would go into and stay in forever would be the time that I was a teenager. And again, it takes me back to those times at the lake where it was carefree, we didn't have responsibilities. But at the same time, I just remember sitting in my place because I was working at the golf course out at the lake, and so my parents would come into the city during the week. So we would come in as a family on Sunday evening. I would go back out by Greyhound bus on Tuesdays. So my mom would take me to the bus station. I would go because I was working at the golf course during the week. So I had this sense of freedom as a kid. I was like, oh my God, I'm by myself at the place out the lake. I'm a grown-up. My parents just had got a cell phone, one of those big clunky, they called it the brick cell phone. I was able to use that so I could, have people call me and I could just have conversations. I'm sitting out on the deck at the lake. Oh yeah, I'm by myself. Like I was a total grown-up. I mean, that was a baller. Come on. No supervision. I was on my own. And I was listening to, this is back when Spice Girls were big, Backstreet Boys were big, Aqua was big, Savage Garden was big. Can't think of any other, but that's all you needed. That's all. Now that's what I call music CDs, right? Now 3, now 4. Those were all really big, the compilation discs. And that's what I would go back to that time. And same thing was, I was obsessed with Golden Girls, so I would be watching my VHS tapes. I would tape the show every day. This is eventually the DVD collections came out, but not at that time. Oh, Will and Grace was the other show too. And so then when I finally did get the DVDs, I would just watch them all day, every day. I would know them word for word. I, tape them, even though I'd seen it. All right, I'll put it on again. That's where I would stay. I would have the same DVD player. I would have the same TV. I would listen to the same CDs. I would use CDs. I would play the CDs. And because it was just such a great time. So if I could be in a bubble and I could just stay and say, okay, I'm going to lock in this time, the year 2000 or 1999, whatever it was. I'm going to have the same furniture. I'm going to have the same TV, same phone, same whatever. By the way, I have a BlackBerry Classic, which is about a 12-year-old phone. I have 3 phones, but I still use a 12-year-old cell phone, and it works perfectly. And same thing with a computer in my house. I have a couple of desktops. One of them, again, is well over 10, probably close to 15 years old, if not older. It works for the basic stuff that I need it to do, and I'm fine with it. Everybody's obsessed with getting the newest, the fastest, the biggest, the brightest, the, whatever. I don't need the... That's why I hate when I call into customer service at a place, for your internet or whatever it is, and they want you to get the faster, the more gigs for your phone plan, the more whatever. I will flat out tell them right at the beginning, maybe you can try to upsell people and they go for it because they want more. I'm actually like, I don't need all these TV channels. I don't need the fastest. I don't need all these gigs. So that's not going to work on me. If anything, I'm downgrading my services. So don't even try. Don't tell me that I need 60 gigs. Don't tell me that I can watch all these movies and never run out of data. Don't tell me that, because I don't, and that's not, So I would just stay with the phone that I have. I would stay with the DVD players, or the DVD and the DVDs that I watch. I would listen to the same music. I would have the same furniture from, when I was... And even as it is too, by the way, yes, I have multiple houses, but my house in Winnipeg, not as fancy as the one we have in West Hollywood, but my house in Winnipeg, I've had the same couch. We haven't done... It's technically, I bought the house before my husband came around, but I have not done any sort of major change inside, meaning painted the walls, knocked out a wall, sure, you've had to replace the, water heater and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about, but I'm just saying in terms, it's the same furniture because I like it. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not the type of person, yes, I have a lot of money, but I'm not the type of person who's just like, let's get a new living room set just because. Nah. Because for me too, I guess maybe just connecting my house, that's, one of my biggest leaps into adulthood, right, is buying a house. And so I think maybe that's what it is for me, is that it's comfort, and it does take me back to that time. It takes me back to that happiness of getting my house. Would the house feel the same if all of a sudden it was a different living room set altogether? It probably wouldn't. Would I regret it? Would I resent the new couch? I probably might, actually. No, yeah, I would. I wouldn't like it, So I would just, I like change to a point, but at the same time, if it's that carefree time of your life where it's like, why would I pass that up? Like, why would I want to now be an adult who's got these obligations? When I hear about people who loved the free life that we had, that's where I sit here going, why do you have 3 kids then? That's the total opposite of what you would do for freedom. But that's your choice. It was your choice to have kids. I don't know. To me, not my thing. Can't stand kids. Wouldn't want them around. They're not going to hold me back. Nope. And especially now. We're out of time. Can I just do this one more thing? Okay. They're not letting me. All right. Well, you know what, though? Are we taking a break or are we wrapping up? Is this a hard out, you guys? Tell me what's going on. Quick break, and I'll be back on the Scribble right after this.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. I will talk to you next week, everybody. Bye-bye for now. Have a good one.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some